I'm sure that many of you recognize this screen. You likely know it all too well, because if you've played Wii Sports, you have undoubtedly seen this dozens of times. In the game, this screen comes up when you've been playing for what it believes to be a long time, that of course, in reality, being a laughably short amount of time, once every 3 games played. I'm sure many people who saw this screen just scoffed at it and continued playing, and because of that, I'm sure many people haven't really thought about this graphic too much. But take a second and look at it. Does it make you feel a certain way? Does it feel almost unsettling? Unnatural? For me at least, it absolutely does. And there's such a particular, vivid feeling that emanates from it. And I would like to explore this, and try to not only understand why this graphic makes me feel the way it does, but also why Wii Sports as a whole feels the way it does. First, I'd like to note that I'm sure many of you don't understand what I'm talking about. Perhaps you look at this graphic and feel nothing. But bear with me, because that might change. One of the strangest things I find in this image is the open window and the strangely positioned remote right there on the table, as if someone is about to break in. Or, judging by the gaping presentation of the window, it's as if someone already has. I would describe the radiant feeling I get from this image as if something is missing, but the composition is fine. It doesn't feel like that missing thing is just out of frame or anything. No, in fact, I think what is missing from this image is intentional, and it's meant to feel like what is missing wouldn't properly fit in the frame. Because what I think is missing here is you. And what I mean by that is it seems whoever was using this Wii remote has decided to give in to Nintendo's pleading and take a break. Maybe they went out for a walk or something, but the camera did not come with them. You don't get to go on that walk with them. Instead, you must watch the Wii remote they left here next to this open window. And this person who has decided to take a break is a metaphorical version of you. It's as if this is a second-person perspective after you've gotten up, set down your Wii remote, and gone out for a walk. The game is showing you that it's still going to be here when you get back, waiting anxiously for you. And in that case, perhaps the screen is more than just a silly suggestion. It may not actively convince you to take a break, but it puts your mind at ease for when you do end up deciding to take a break much later. It lets you know, even if subconsciously, that you decide how long your break is. You decide when you want to start playing again. And in any case, you will eventually get back to it. So perhaps this screen actually does do its job, despite how blissfully ignorant it seems from the developers. And moreover, it appears to have nailed its own atmosphere. It doesn't feel out of place, it's not demanding that you take a break, and importantly, it's not attempting to break the immersion. But was there really any immersion to begin with? The screen is merely a particular concentration of the Wii Sports energy, around which the game is centered. The game has this kind of fake feel to it. It feels like a video game. Most video games attempt to immerse you within the world. Some games do this with a breathtaking fantasy-scape, and others do it by trying to replicate the real world as accurately as possible. And many games nail this immersion pretty well. But Wii Sports doesn't feel that way, which is for the best. Wii Sports isn't trying to immerse the player, it's trying to feel like a video game. It's trying to feel fake. But not in the same way a cardboard cutout of a tree feels fake. It feels like software fake. It feels like what you're playing is a computer-generated simulation, but not like The Matrix, because again, it doesn't feel like it's trying to trick you. It hardly feels like it's even trying to impress you. And this is somewhat illustrated by the graphical limitations at the time. While you're playing, it doesn't feel like you're playing sports. It feels like you're playing a video game about sports. In other games, you can almost lose yourself in the fantasy, but in Wii Sports, it feels like you're playing Wii Sports. In fact, a lot of the standard Wii games such as Wii Play feel the same way. And it can also be found all over the Wii in general. Even games like Mario Kart Wii have this almost fake feel to them. There's all those areas you drive to without any worry of being bothered by the other racers, and these clearly fake backgrounds and boundaries that add to this almost comfortingly secluded vibe. But this is especially present in the menus. In fact, I think some of the strongest applications of this aesthetic lie in the menus. Even the home menu on the Wii itself. This is because the Wii generally follows a particular aesthetic, and it does in fact have a name. It is called Frutiger Aero. The aesthetic was wildly popular in the 2000s as the successor to the Y2K aesthetic from the 90s. Frutiger Aero has this very hopeful, upbeat attitude that serves the purpose of appearing friendly and comfortable to consumers. Frutiger Aero extends beyond just UI and tech design. It's had many applications and logos and brand themes. You may also recognize the aesthetic not only from the Wii, but from Windows XP, Vista, and 7, although it had started being phased out around the release of Windows 8, and thus Windows 10 and 11 represent the flat, simplistic UI design of the current era. This is a large complaint from people these days. It seems the majority of companies are going for their oversimplified logos, yet it seems like the majority of consumers strongly disagree with these decisions. It makes sense why something as bright and joyous as Frutiger Aero would be far more appealing to the public. It took dystopia and made it utopia. And yet the future these graphics always depicted didn't exactly turn out the way anyone hoped it would. If you want a more in-depth explanation of Frutiger Aero and its history, Undefined has a great video on it. Now that we've established what Frutiger Aero is, let's move back to Wii Sports. I think it definitely matches the descriptions and aesthetics associated with Frutiger Aero. However, Wii Sports Resort doesn't have the same vibe at all. I've only seen gameplay footage without actually having played Resort, so take my opinion on it with a grain of salt. But from what I can tell, despite the tropical paradise the game depicts, the original manages to nail a far more joyous application of Frutiger Aero. And while I can't say for sure if this was intentional, I think it will go down as a factor that represents Wii Sports in the long run. And in part with the gameplay experience relative to the controller in your hands, Wii Sports will be remembered as a brilliant video game.